I was penniless with a backpack, no education, nothing at all. There is so much knowledge out there. There is so
Mhm.
much information about what to do, and you can fill your head with the how to's, and you're not going to get the results because it's not the knowledge that does it. And in less than 6 years, I managed to retire on 40 acres in Ecuador. So I'm not talking from theory.
Amani channel with the Seeds of Awakening show.
And Deanna Moore with Manifesting Minds.
And this is our conversations. This is two ex-cult members who like to talk about spiritual and I guess the esoteric information that they've learned over the years.
Non-cult stuff.
Exactly. Exactly. So Dina, we've been talking a lot about manifestation, and I guess let's start off by just giving a quick background or a quick review of where you are now with your life and how you're able to manifest your lifestyle.
So, coming from 38 years in the cult, when I left 12 years ago, I was penniless with a backpack, no education, nothing at all, except my head and the knowledge that I had acquired through the coaching that I had done. And manifesting specifically was something that just absolutely fascinated me, even when I was still in the cult. And I always jokingly say, I was like, this is how Jehovah answers prayers. This is how he blesses people. And now, post cult, I realize this is actually quantum physics. This is how the universe is set up. And if you can understand how it's set up and how to apply it, I'll rant on that word for a second too, because you know what? There is so much knowledge out there. There is so
Mhm.
much information about what to do, and you can fill your head with the how to's, and you're not going to get the results because it's not the knowledge that does it, it's the work that does
Mhm.
it. So 12 years ago, I was absolutely penniless, homeless, just with nothing but my backpack and my wits. And in less than 6 years, I managed to retire on 40 acres in Ecuador. So I'm not talking from theory. I'm talking from lived experience. I've made the mistakes, I've lived the successes, and I repeated it. And these are patterns, these are consistent patterns. This is not coincidence. This is not luck. This is not, good fortune. This is quantum physics that works once you understand the principles.
Yeah, and I'll say we're Jehovah's Witnesses, so that's the religion we were both in. And for Jehovah's Witnesses, a lot of times, like I went to college, but most of them don't go to college because they believe that it's a waste of time investing in this world. It's going to end. So when they leave, they feel like kind of hopeless, like they've wasted all their lives, they haven't done anything. But your
Mhm.
story kind of proves that you can be that way. You can have nothing and then build something out of it.
Exactly. Our beliefs create our reality. So if our beliefs are, I don't have any education, I'm too old, it's too late, I'll never be able to do that, that's exactly what you're going to manifest because it works both ways. We don't just manifest $1 million, we also manifest disaster.
Hmm.
So understanding that, the world is an open book of possibilities. And if you can visualize it and if you can imagine it, you can get it. There's blocks that we're going to have to do. I think we talked about this a little bit last week that, sometimes if we're visualizing is not the only component. That's a small component. But when you believe in your heart that maybe that's not possible, or that's the energy that's going to magnetize or demagnetize what it is that you're looking for to create for yourself.
I'm talking about limiting beliefs.
Not just limiting beliefs, but wallpapering over limiting beliefs doesn't necessarily work either. So if you're penniless saying I'm a millionaire, that's going to actually backfire because your brain's like, what the heck are you talking about?
Right.
That's not true. So, and the feeling sometimes that we get, like I was just talking to somebody the other day. I was talking to a client the other day, and we were talking about affirmations. And she was like, you just explained why I feel terrible when I do affirmations. Because you stand in front of the mirror and sometimes the lie is so obvious that you actually feel bad, like saying I'm a millionaire, or saying
Hmm.
I'm 100 pounds when you have 200 pounds to lose. You're saying these things that are so far from the reality. Sometimes that can actually backfire because it generates in you this sense or this,
Resistance, some sort of resistance.
yep, disappointment. anger that it's not true yet.
Hmm.
And more so than the visualizations, more so than the beliefs, it's the energy that we have. Our energy is so magnetic. And we have never really learned to control that energy. I think a lot of us, not just in the ex Jehovah's Witness or the cult world, but life in general, we say things like, he made me mad. We go about blaming the outside world for
Right.
our internal state. And this, success is really about saying, you know what, excuse me, I'm the one that determines my internal state.
Taking responsibility for taking accountability.
Yep, yep. You can laugh or you can cry. It doesn't change the circumstances, but it does change your biology. It changes your chemistry. It changes your energy, which in turn does start to change and alter your dynamics and your situation.
So take me from how do you go from, let's say you want to manifest a partner, a relationship. What's the
Mhm.
general process for doing that? Let's just walk through that real quick.
So let me start with one of the blocks.
Okay.
Okay, so one of the biggest blocks is a lot of times when people want to manifest something, it's because they need to. It's because they have to. It's because if I don't get this, my life's going to suck. It's because my world is a disaster right now. I hate it. And that's why I want to manifest XYZ. So, going back to this idea that our energy is manifesting things for us, you cannot manifest something from a state of need, desperation, and want
Right.
because you push it away. You'll end up pushing it away. It's kind of like, I don't know, have you ever had a floaty in the pool before? And the more you swim towards it, the more it floats the opposite direction.
Yep.
And
That's good. That's a good analogy.
yeah, manifesting can be like that too. The more you need something, the more we actually end up repelling it.
And the way I understand it is because if you're in a state of need, that's what you're going to manifest as more need.
Exactly. Exactly. The energy is the magnet, not the visualizations, not the desire, not the outcome. That's a part of it, but it's a way smaller part than what the energy in you has right now. So, this need and desperation is a critical thing that we need to neutralize in order for any manifestation to work.
Hmm.
Most of the feelings that we feel, I think this is important to understand too. Your feelings feel real, and they are real because it's a chemical that you actually are generating in your body. So if you feel stress, that chemical is called cortisol. We have these feelings and they are very real. That doesn't make them true. So most of the things that we fear are actually figments of our imagination. The feeling is very real, but the thought or the idea that's causing it is not imminent threat, and I mean, I'm sure all of us can think of times where we stressed about something or we were so worried that something was going to happen, we can make ourselves sick to our stomach with worry, and then it doesn't happen. So we've suffered for something that doesn't even always end up
It
happening.
almost never happens the way we imagine it.
Exactly. But at the same time, that energy of desperation, anxiety is guaranteed to create more of the same thing. So maybe the outcome itself that you were worried is going to happen didn't happen, but something else happened that created that caused more anxiety. The events in our world are not what's causing our anxiety. Our anxiety is causing the anxiety.
Hmm.
So, there's lots of spiritual practices that try to teach detachment, living in the now, living in the moment. And those aren't just cool ideas. Those are not just cool theory. That is the science behind manifesting. That when
Mm.
you learn that the truth is that right this second, you're fine. Right this second, you're okay. Whatever fears you have, they're figments of your imagination that have not materialized yet. And you're creating them and you're bringing them into the present. You're pre-living the negative conditions before they've ever even happened. Like in my opinion too, if something bad's going to happen, I don't want to spend 6 months being
Worried
feeling
about it.
horrible. Yeah, yeah, and then it happening. I'd rather be blissfully happy and then it happens and then you
Right.
just get over with, you know? So sometimes negative things happen. And so causing yourself the least amount of stress is the wise thing to do.
Mhm.
Okay, so your question, how do you manifest a partner? How do you manifest a job? The biggest block that I find that people have is they approach manifesting with desperation.
Mm.
So there's a, we have to really start to appreciate that, okay, wait a second. If I'm not grateful for what I have right now, how is the universe going to give me more things to be grateful for? Maybe
Mm.
maybe for example, you've given a gift to somebody and they're just like, yeah, whatever. How likely are you to give them another gift in the future?
Right.
Probably not very likely.
Mhm.
So, the way that the universal laws of energy work is kind of the same way. There are things for you to be grateful for right now. Even if it's just quite as simple as you do have food for the day,
You can
that
open your eyes, you can
you can
breathe.
open your eyes, that there's plenty of sunshine, that there's an abundance of oxygen. If you can't be appreciative of the little things, how in the world are you ever going to be appreciative for the big things? So entering into that state of appreciation and gratitude is just good common sense, first of all. And then you end up creating and attracting good things into your life. I recently read something that I thought was interesting too, coming from the religion. You're like supposed to pray before every meal. And so when I got out of the religion, I kind of stopped doing that. But I recently read something that said that actually, if you enter into a state of gratitude before you eat, your digestion is improved by like 60% or some ridiculous number. I just made that number up because I don't remember what it is, but it has a physical effect on your body.
I heard like blessing your money or blessing your food is a good practice to be in as well.
Exactly. Again, because it gives you this energetic state. There are no downsides to being in a state of gratitude. There's no bad that can possibly come from that. Your health is better. The Heart Math Institute does a protocol that they call heart brain coherence,
Mhm.
and it's basically kind of it is kind of a gratitude or a love kind of meditation where you feel it from your heart, and it allows the brain and the heart to kind of sync their patterns. But they've also said that all you need to do is 5 minutes of this brain heart coherence exercise, and it boosts your immune system for like 8 hours. So manifesting, awesome. Yeah, great. Manifest the life of your dreams. But in the meantime, there's physical benefits, there's emotional benefits, there's spiritual benefits. You've got all of these other reasons to do that too. So there's no reason not to. There's no downside here.
Mm. Yeah, I've been thinking about being in gratitude, like when I wake up, first thing when I wake up, before I
Mhm.
go to bed, like right when you're kind of in that, what they call I forget
It's
what
a
the word,
theta
there's a word they use to explain it though.
state. Well, basically, it's these lower, slower brain waves
Right.
that are the brain waves that are common in deep hypnosis. And
Mm.
that is the manifestation zone. As soon as you're up and you're looking at your phone and you're answering messages, your brain starts going in these beta waves, which are a lot faster. And that's not the state of manifesting. The state of manifesting is, like you said, first thing in the morning,
Mhm.
kind of have this groggy, sleepy.
All my senses have not returned, like you're still trying to figure out where you are exactly.
You're in the universe. You're in
Mhm.
the universe. What better place to ask the universe for something than when you're in the universe because of those brain waves?
Mhm.
I think sometimes with the goal of meditation is to actually get into those theta waves.
Exactly.
So take advantage of them when they're naturally occurring, which is like the first 15 minutes after you wake up and about the first 15 minutes before you go to sleep. Your
Mhm.
brain's already there. So you can take advantage of that deeper neuro brain waves to help create the reality that you want a whole lot easier.
All right, so we have gratitude, we have not being in a state of want. What else is important?
Um, well, let's go back to not being in the state of want, because what ends up happening is we can end up kind of sending mixed signals to the universe. And this is also sometimes why we don't create the life of our dreams. So you start off the day, you do your gratitude meditation, you do your visualization, everything feels fantastic. And then you pick up the phone and you start freaking out. You're freaking out over this, you're stressing out over this. You got, okay, so the universe doesn't care about your circumstances, they're only reading your energy. So if you're in gratitude for, 15 minutes during the morning, that is fantastic. But if the other 23 hours of the day you're in stress panic mode, you're literally sending the universe two different signals. And the energetic signal that's longest and loudest is probably the one that's going to prevail. Not totally, because there's some math involved in, which frequency is more powerful and stuff like that, but these gratitude meditations, this releasing the expectation, this embracing the detachment, um not that you don't want what you want, but you're okay either way.
Everything's gonna work out.
Everything is going to work out. You know what? Are you going to die in the next 5 minutes? Probably not. Are you going to starve to death today? Probably not. I mean, even if you're homeless, because I've been there before too, are you going to die today? Is that literally going to, the truth is probably not. So once you start really embracing this, okay, my thoughts are not always true. My feelings feel real, but also I'm the one that's giving power to them. Do I want to create more of this feeling? Obviously not. So let's start doing this work to keep ourselves in a state of gratitude, optimism, and then the naysayers will come in and say, well, that's not practical. That's not realistic. You're putting your head in the sand. Okay. I get that. I really get that, because I also have a very analytical, very logical, I'm very pragmatic, practical kind of person. And this is not about ignoring issues. This is about not adding fuel to the fire for the
Mhm.
negative issues. I mean, let's say, something terrible is going to happen. You're getting evicted at the end of the month, whatever. We'll just take that for example. Okay, so yeah, you're getting evicted at the end of the month. You can either stress about that, you can freak out about that, you can panic about that, or you can take a deep breath and you can choose to decide, okay, I'm grateful that I have 30 days. Perhaps this is going to be the catalyst for something better. You're not ignoring that there's an issue. You're choosing to energetically deal with it in a healthier way.
Mm.
Because another thing that I think that we don't often realize too is that when we are in the flight or fight mode, when we're in panic mode, our brain literally loses a percentage of its capacity to make good decisions, because that's how the brain is designed. Obviously, if a lion is about to kill you in 5 seconds, you don't need to make long-term decisions.
It's not important.
Right.
Run.
Right. Survival. So when you're in that mode, you're literally making worse decisions. So the logical thing is, change your emotional state, increase the blood flow to the brain, slow down those brain waves into the theta brain waves, because that's where creativity is. And guess where the solution to some of your problems often is?
In that zone.
A creative solution.
Yep. I remember my dad used to have mechanical, he used to like, work on cars and he'd
Mhm.
have a problem. He'd go to sleep and he said, I think I found the solution as soon as he woke up. It came to me while
Yeah.
I was asleep.
Yeah, exactly. That's because that's when the brain is in that more creative state with those lower brain waves. Yeah, those
Hmm.
slower brain waves. So understanding that your need and desperation is creating more need and desperation.
Mm.
I think that's a crucial part. And then it's not just ignoring or replacing anything. It's deciding to be grateful for what you can be grateful for,
Hmm.
which increases blood flow, it increases creativity, it increases your ability to manifest what you really want.
Yeah, I feel like that's like the foundation of it, really.
Mhm,
Being
mhm. The
able to be,
foundation of everything is controlling your emotional state.
yep, controlling your mindset, controlling your emotions.
Mhm.
Because I found myself like I might wake up and be calm and be in a positive vibration. And this morning of the day, maybe a flash of a bill collector calls or whatever. It kind of
Yeah,
throws you into that panic mode.
exactly, exactly. And that's the part where we need the most growth. Obviously there's physical development. We go from being toddlers to, preteen to young adult. So we're familiar with physical growth. We're familiar with intellectual growth. We're talking now more about emotional
Mhm.
IQ. Emotional IQ means really, he didn't make me mad. That didn't upset me. I chose my response.
Yeah.
I mean, I've coached people with going through divorces, for example. And you might have somebody who's going really great. They've had a fantastic weekend, fantastic week, and then all of a sudden the ex texts and they go into this spiral, and their whole day is ruined, and it's his fault. And it's like, that's inaccurate. When you allow somebody else to ruin your entire day, you're giving them the control over your life, and that's just not good business
Giving our
practice.
power away in a lot of ways.
Absolutely giving your power away. Giving somebody the ability to ruin your day or ruin your life because they're tweaking your energy so you end up manifesting more of that. That's terrible. That's not fun at all.
Okay, so this is a really helpful lesson. Why don't you summarize for us the points that we went over today? And just give us a quick summary.
Okay. Okay. So, quick summary: manifestation from a state of necessity, desire, lack is like swimming towards the pool floaty. You actually end up repelling it. So, the antidote to that is gratitude, appreciating what you do have, even if it's just two pennies, sunshine, the air. The universe responds, it gives things to be grateful to when you're feeling that energy of gratitude. And then probably the third thing is understanding that what we're talking about here is emotional maturity. And so it's really about deciding how we choose to respond. Not that we're ignoring circumstances or putting our head in the sand, but we're choosing the most effective response to get the outcome that we'd like to have.
Mhm. Deanna, I gotta say thank you for
I
sharing
love
this
our
with us.
episode.
Make sure you comment, like, subscribe, share this with someone who we find it valuable. This is Amani channel, the Seas Awakening Show.
And Dina Moore with Manifesting Minds.
Yeah, you're
Connect with us.
watching Higher Conversations, and thanks so much. We'll bring you another lesson next week. Thanks so much.